Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. I am your host, Chris Tutela, here to help you live the Iron Life. And first and foremost, we got a big fight this weekend. Sugar Sean O'Malley is fighting Merab. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the guy's last name. It's crazy. I'm a pretty big UFC fan, and I cannot pronounce my man's last name, Valashlami or whatever the fuck. But no disrespect to him, of course. But it's an interesting card, guys. For all you UFC fans out there, the UFC is going to be at the Sphere in Vegas this Saturday night. So I'm excited about that. I'm very curious to see how they're going to play that off or pull that off. Because it seems like it's going to be really fucking cool. The way they're hyping it up looks pretty dope. You got Sean O'Malley versus Merab as the main event. Then you got the co-main Valentina versus Alexa Grasso. Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. That fight I'm actually really excited about too, because those are two killers. I'm curious to see how that's going to go. If I have to give some predictions for the event, I'm going to say Diego Lopez takes Ortega, and I think that he's going to finish Ortega. I'm going to say he's going to finish Ortega in the third round. Yeah, I think so. Ortega's tough as shit, but I think that Diego Lopez, that young stud coming up, and he is a fucking killer, man. So I'm going to say he finishes Ortega in the third round. That may even be fight of the night. I'm going to call it right now. We'll see. And let's see. Scroll up a little bit, Ethan, so I can see the other way. Sorry. So we got Valentina and Alexa Grasso. Dude, Valentina was unbeatable for so long, and she is a fucking killer. I feel like, so Alexa Grasso beat her in the first fight. The second fight, it was a draw, close fight. I don't know if Alexa Grasso maybe just has her number. I feel like Valentina is the better fighter overall with her skill set. Is she getting a little bit older now? Does Alexa Grasso have her number? I don't know. I think it's going to be a close fight. I think that one is going to go the distance. I'm going to say Alexa Grasso squeaks this one out again versus Valentina. My prediction for that one. And for the main event, fuck, man, this fight is really interesting because if Sean O'Malley could keep it standing, I think he's going to pick Merab apart. And I don't know if you're going to knock out a guy like Merab. I think that if he could keep it standing, that fight goes the distance. And O'Malley takes it and picks him apart. Now, it all comes down to the wrestling, right? If Merab gets O'Malley down, O'Malley is going to be in for a long night. Because my man, you know that guy's gas tank is like none other. He does not stop. He doesn't stop moving forward. That guy's a fucking killer. Ooh, it's going to be a tough one. I'm going to say that Merab upsets O'Malley because I think he is favored, right? O'Malley's still the favorite? Yeah. So, yeah, I think Merab is still going to I think he's gonna pull off the upset. I think he's gonna take him down. I think he's gonna beat him up in the later rounds, round 4 or 5, and I think he's gonna win and take home the belt. So we will see, guys. We're gonna have a really interesting card though this Saturday night. I'm pumped to watch it. I'm really curious to see how Dana White sets up the Sphere and how that, because they said this is gonna be the only time they do it at the Sphere. So I don't know if that's true, but if it is, I'm really curious to see how they're going to set this up. So I'm fired up for the fights this weekend, and we'll see if my predictions are correct next week, guys. But that's not all we're talking about today. Today, I want to share a few things with you guys because I've been getting some questions about, getting into top shape and what does that mean? It looks different for everybody, right? Like, peak performance may look different for you than it does for me, than it does for Sean O'Malley, right? A world champion in the UFC. So I want to go over like some baseline things to cover when it comes to getting in peak shape. And we're going to start with that. And then I want to share with you guys my mobility hygiene routine because I've been having a couple conversations with clients lately, and this has been coming up a lot. So I want to share that with you guys as well. So first, let's talk about my 7-3-2-1-1 formula for getting into the best shape of your life this year. We could start applying this right away. And listen, guys, it's September. You could be in the best shape of your life by the time January comes around. So you're ahead of the whole new year, new me, fucking resolutioners that we know are going to be coming up in just a couple months. So let's take a look at this formula. So first, the 7. That's for getting 7 days per week of walking 10,000 steps per day. So that's the foundation, right? You should be walking 7,500 steps per day minimum. I like to push that a little further, say 10,000, 7,500 to 10,000 plus per day. That's going to be the sweet spot. What that does is that's going to aid in overall health. It's going to get you outside more and away from screens. So it's great for bringing down the cortisol levels in your blood. It's also great for daily caloric expenditure because you'll be burning more calories. It's great for recovery due to the circulation. And it's just great for overall health, peace of mind. It's just a healthy thing, a healthy habit to have. So that's the first piece. Very basic, very baseline, but let's get 7 days per week of 10,000 steps per day, bare minimum 7,500 steps per day. Okay. Now, next is 3. That's 3 high quality strength training days per week. Okay. Most people overthink this. They think that they have to train 7 days per week. They do way too much volume. They don't do quality strength training. And that's why a lot of people get injured. They bust up their joints. They feel like shit. Now, if you're training properly and you're training hard enough, 3 days per week, 45 to 60 minutes, that's the sweet spot. That's it. Get in there, get a good warm up, hit it hard, get the fuck out. You don't need to waste time in the gym. So when you're doing this correctly, understand that high quality strength training is, Ethan's listening to MC Hammer over there. What do you got going on there, brother? I don't know if you guys caught that. But 3 days per week of high quality strength training, this is going to have the biggest effect on your body composition. So people talk about cardio, which we'll talk about in a second. People look at HIIT training. Remember, guys, if you're a listener to the show, you probably heard me say this 1,000 times, but what they promote as HIIT training or HIIT is not HIIT at all. HIIT is high intensity interval training. Now, the benefits of high intensity interval training are certainly there, but what these marketers have done is they've taken high intensity interval training and they turned it into some shit show where people are dancing around for an hour and they're doing low to moderate intensity and they're calling it high intensity, but it's the furthest thing from high intensity. So you don't get the actual benefits that high intensity interval training has to offer. So we'll talk about cardio in a second because that's what the really high intensity interval training is. But when we're talking about strength training, you have to keep the focus of your strength training on getting stronger and building muscle in the gym. When you train to get stronger and build muscle, we're going to be checking a lot of boxes. You're going to be enhancing your mobility for one, because when you do high quality strength training through a full range of motion, that's the best way to gain mobility of the joints. But also, we're going to be checking the box of stability because we're going to be training those small stabilizer muscles as well and creating stability within the joints. Then, of course, we're going to be checking the box of building bone density, which helps you prevent injury as well, and especially just kind of maintaining your bone density as you get older. So most of you listening to this are over 35. As we get older, especially you women, for those of you ladies, I know it's mostly men listening to the show, but for those of you ladies that are listening, understand that as you get older, you're going to lose bone density at a much faster pace or faster rate than men will. So having high quality strength training as a staple in your fitness program is certainly going to be helpful for you. But outside of those things, like I said, this is going to have the greatest impact on your body composition. Why? Because how do we want to look? We want to look lean. We want to look shredded. We want to look jacked. Ladies, you want to look quote unquote toned. Basically what that means is that we have muscle on our frame and we bring our body fat down low enough to be able to see the definition. So the muscle mass that you build through your strength training is what's actually going to sculpt your physique. Okay. So that's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck and have the most impact on your overall body composition. All right. So that's super important for you. If you guys are new to the show or if you're a newbie to strength training, you got to understand that that is going to be the thing that gives you the results that you want when it comes to developing the physique that you want. Now, your diet is what is going to dictate how much body fat you lose. Of course, we have to keep an eye on your activity levels and all that good stuff. However, your diet's going to be the thing that dictates how much body fat you lose as a whole. So your strength training should be focused on building muscle, getting stronger, and also improving your mobility, your stability, and these other things that I mentioned. Your diet takes the body fat down. So you should be doing 3 high-quality strength training days per week. Now, 2. 2 is for 2 zone 2 cardio sessions per week. So here's the thing, guys. Depending the style of training that you do and the level of intensity in which you train at is going to create different adaptations within the heart. Okay, so if you're training at a really high intensity, and if you're doing true high intensity work, that has a different adaptation, or that will create a different adaptation in the heart than zone 2 lower intensity training will have. So it's important to work this in for overall health. Now, those 2 zone 2 days, I like to look at these as like a restoration day. They're not super challenging. They're actually they feel good to do. So if you're training hard, you're hitting the weights 3 days per week with pretty good intensity, these are also great for recovery. So it's like more than active recovery, but it's like active recovery. We could call it that, right? So you're breaking a sweat, you're getting your heart rate up, and you're just kind of maintaining your heart rate at a steady state for anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes, right? So it's not super hard. You're not huffing and puffing. You could have a conversation as you're doing that for 30 to 60 minutes. So my advice there is to pick an activity that you enjoy that isn't super stressful. So you could you're going to have to do more than just your walking for zone 2 work to get your heart rate up high enough for most of you. But a hike at a good pace with some hills and some changes in elevation, that could be a good one. Swimming could certainly be a good one. If you want to use the elliptical or a bike or something like that, but an activity that you enjoy. And we just I like to do 2 30-minute sessions per week. The best way to do this is because the heart rate zones, this is where the heart rate zones kind of come into play because we said zone 2, right? So here's a simple formula for you to figure this out. Take 220 and subtract your age. Okay, so if I'm 37, you do 220 minus 37. The number that you get, you're going to take 60 to 70% of that number, and you're just going to maintain that heart rate. All right, so let's just do a little math here, some meathead math. So I'll bust out my calculator. So if you do 220 for me minus 37, it's going to give me 183 beats per minute. That's my max heart rate. Okay, so if I take 70% of that, that's 128 beats per minute. So like from 120 to 128, that's going to be my range that I just kind of maintain. So my heart rate's not super high, and I'm just staying at that steady pace for 30 to 60 minutes. You do that twice per week, has incredible health benefits, especially cardiovascular health. It's also going to help with your daily caloric expenditure because you're burning more calories through that activity, right? So you're doing that twice a week. It's built in. You're going to get the cardiovascular benefits. You're going to get the active recovery benefits, and you're going to burn those extra calories, right? So work that in twice per week. All right. Now we have 1. So 7 days per week of walking, 3 days high quality strength training, 2 days per week of zone 2 cardio, 1 day a week of true high intensity conditioning. So you heard me talk about the bullshit HIIT classes that have been around now for years. like I said, marketers are taking advantage of you and they're selling you bullshit because it's not actually high intensity interval training. So high intensity interval training means that we're going to work at a true high intensity, like 100% effort, high intensity for a brief period of time. Let's call it 10 seconds. And then we're going to rest. We're going to get full recovery. And then we're going to repeat that activity. So let's use sprinting as an example. So let's say for 8 to 10 seconds, you do a full sprint. Now, I wouldn't recommend that for most of you listening, not on the flat ground at least, but a hill sprint might be a better option, but this is just an example. So you do a full sprint for 8 to 10 seconds. Now we rest 90 seconds or 2 minutes, and then we repeat that, and we do that for maybe 10 sets or so, okay? That's how you get the effects of high-intensity interval training when they talk about you burning more calories after the training session, that EPOC effect. That is true, but it's only true when you're training at true high intensities, right? So you guys got to understand, now I've done episodes on this in the past, and I won't go too deep into it today, but when it comes to energy systems, we have to actually develop that anaerobic alactic system in order to, or we're going to be targeting that system rather, in order to train at true high intensities. So that system, that anaerobic alactic system, is only going to be able to be used for somewhere around 10 seconds. Because if you're pushing it, so think about sprinting on a track. You're sprinting as hard as you could for 10 seconds, right? Think about the speed that you could travel over a 10-second period. Now, let's imagine you continue down the track, and now you're doing that for 60 seconds, okay? Those first 10 seconds, you're probably going to be sprinting a lot faster than you would be for the remaining 50 seconds, right? That's because your body cannot produce ATP, which is the energy currency, at that rate for past 10 seconds, right? So now you're going to be tapping into the glycolytic system, and then it's eventually going to go back to the aerobic system where you're just going to kind of run out of gas, so to speak, right? If you were to just kind of keep going, at some point, you're going to have to stop or you're going to have to slow down. That's because your body could only make, or your body could only produce ATP at those rates for so long, right? So the point of all that is to tell you that if you're going to train at, if we're going to train that energy system, the anaerobic alactic system, that means you have to push it for around 10 seconds, true high intensity, work your ass off, rest, recover 90 seconds, 2 minutes or more, repeat. And if we do 10 sets or so of that, now we're actually doing true high intensity interval training or high intensity work. Now, like I said, that style of training will strengthen the heart in a different way than zone 2 will. So for optimal health, it's important to have both. That's why 1 day a week of the high intensity stuff, twice a week of the lower intensity stuff. Now we're training the heart with different intensities, which are going to create different adaptations or strengthen the heart in different ways. And now that leads you to a healthier cardiovascular system. All right. So I hope that that makes sense. All right. So we want to do that once per week. And then, of course, will that help with daily caloric expenditure as well? Yes, it will. If you're an athlete, will that help with your conditioning? Yes, it will. We're training different energy systems now, and that's going to depend on your sport, whether it actually carries over to your sport or not. However, your overall conditioning, your overall system will improve. So hopefully that makes sense for you guys. And then finally, the last one on the 7-3-2-1-1 system is 1 day a week of active recovery. So again, we talked about zone 2 kind of being your active recovery. I don't want this to confuse you, but active recovery, the way I'm talking about it here, is more like really restorative work. So maybe you do a little bit of a mobility circuit where you get your heart rate up for 15 to 30 minutes. Maybe it's You do another zone 2 session if you wanted to. You could do that, or you go for your hike. You're not really concerned about your heart rate. You're just kind of moving a little bit. But anything to move your body, anything that you enjoy, that could be like that restorative day. It could also be a day that you go for a massage. It could also be a day in the float tank. It could also be a day that you do a cold plunge or cryotherapy or a sauna session, right? These are things that will help with restoration. It'll help with recovery. And some obviously are more passive than being active, but maybe we should just call it a restoration day. And you could kind of choose from the activity that you want to do. You want to get a massage, you want to do mobility work, you want to do some foam rolling, whatever. But you want to focus on recovery. And if we add that in once a week, we're going to be ahead of the game there, right? So that's the 7-3-2-1-1 system. 7 days per week, you're walking, minimum 7,500 steps per day, 3 days per week of high-quality strength training, 2 days per week of zone 2 cardio, 1 day a week of high-intensity interval training, 1 day a week of restoration recovery work. Now, with that, like I said earlier, I had some clients, we were having a conversation regarding mobility hygiene. So I'll share that with you now because it kind of goes hand in hand with that restoration day. All right. So hopefully you guys are with me so far. As I take a swig of coffee. And let's now chat about mobility hygiene. So the way I like to do mobility hygiene is just address the areas that are commonly tight for most people, right? And I'll share my little routine that I do. And this is something you could do daily. It might take you 5 to 10 minutes. If you only want to do it on certain days of the week, you could do it on certain days of the week. What I recommend is like when you're chilling, you're watching TV. If you're going to sit on a plane, you could do it before and after. Police officers, you guys listening to the show, this is something I would certainly do before your shift. Just have a little mobility hygiene routine. Same thing for firefighters. If you're at the firehouse, this is something that you guys can do when you get a little bit of extra downtime, maybe in the evening or whatever. But if EMS workers, for you guys, it's really important to make sure that you're prepared to move well when you have to move suddenly to prevent those avoidable injuries. But it's not just for you guys. The tactical athletes will call you. It's also for everybody. So if you're going to sit in a car for a long time, do it before and after. If you're going to sit on a plane for a long time, same deal. But you want to have some type of mobility routine that you do, kind of just like brushing your teeth every day. So let's go over a few basic drills, and I'll post a video on this so you guys could have it because I don't want to describe everything and you guys don't know what the fuck I'm saying anyway. But here's a few of my go-to drills, right? So number one is the world's greatest stretch, and I kind of start in a down dog position, stretch my calves, get my shoulders fired up, kind of put my head through my shoulders. Then I get into the world's greatest stretch, where you're kind of in that lunge position, you're reaching up and you're getting that thoracic rotation because thoracic mobility is really important. And I'll usually do like 3 rotations on each side. And then when I switch sides, I'll make sure I get a little bit of that calf stretch as well. That's tremendous. Then that's the first one. The second one I do is just a basic pigeon stretch or pigeon pose. So I'll get into that pigeon position and I'll just kind of hang out there for maybe 30 seconds on each side. Then I like to sit onto a couch or a chair or a bench if you're at the gym, and I do a rolling piriformis stretch where I'll put my right leg over my left, tuck my chin to my chest, come down as I'm kind of slightly pushing down on my leg that's up. So if I have my right knee over my left, I'm pushing down on the inside of my right knee, chin to chest, rolling forward. Again, you'll get a better idea with the visual when I post a video. But I'll do 3 to 5 reps on each side like that. So when I get in the bottom, I'll hold for 1,000, 2, 1,000, come back up. Each rep, I try to challenge the range of motion. Then from there, I go right into a couch stretch. So that's pretty basic. Think about being in like a Bulgarian split squat. but your back foot is on your couch or a bench if you're at the gym, or maybe a roller pad. And then rather than doing like a split squat, you get down in a split squat position, but you're going to rest your knee on the ground. I like to use an RX pad for this, one of those blue thick RX pads that I put my knee on. And then, so now I'm in like a Bulgarian split squat position with my knee resting on the ground. And then from here, I'm going to push my hips forward, okay, to target the hip flexor and also that rectus femoris, that long part of the quad that kind of runs up into your hip. And as I'm pushing my hips forward, I reach up and reach for the sky. And you're going to feel that kind of pulling on almost that lower part of your ab. You'll feel that in there because that hip flexor is really under stretch. And then I'll hold that for about 2 seconds. I'll come back to the starting position. So now I flex my knee a little bit more, bringing my butt closer to the couch or the bench. That's going to stretch the quad. And then I repeat that process for like 5 reps with a 2-second hold on each one, trying to challenge the range of motion. Then I switch sides. Then I do a basic Cossack squat for the adductors. And I'll usually, I do it 2 ways. Basically, I'll do either reps where I do 3 to 5 reps on each side, left, right, or I just kind of, sit in that position and I'll hang out there in the bottom of a Cossack squat for a couple seconds. Then I'll switch sides and I just kind of keep my hands on the ground sometimes if I'm like really tight. It's especially if I do that early in the morning, I like to do it that way, just kind of put it on stretch. And then what I'll do is imagine this. So if I'm in a Cossack squat, the leg that's extended, usually I'll start with my toe facing the ceiling, right? But then I'll rotate my hip. So I drop that toe down. Now I target a little bit more of the adductors. And then I bring the toe up, which is a little bit more hamstring. And then I just kind of keep rotating the foot up and down like that. So you get in that ball and socket joint kind of rotating in the hip. And then you're also transitioning from more adductors, more hamstring, more adductors, more hamstring. You go back and forth like that. That's it, guys. That usually takes me like 6 minutes to do, but you'll feel great after it. And it's super important to just have some type of mobility hygiene routine because a lot of us, especially as you get older, especially for you meatheads listening, you got a lot of muscle on you, you're strong. You got to start taking care of those joints because the older you get, the closer you get to 40, 50, 60s, you get up in those age ranges, things don't feel the way they did in your 20s, right? Or your early 30s. You start to get a little bit of wear and tear. So having this mobility hygiene routine, man, it's going to make you feel so much better, just looser and ready to tackle the tasks of the day. You should certainly do that, prior to training. I like to do that stuff before, as part of my warm up for a lower body day. Along with foam rolling the quads. That's something that I really like to do. Guys, when you foam roll, by the way, when you just lay on a roller and just kind of roll around aimlessly, that doesn't really do you any good. You got to spend some time on the area that you're addressing and just kind of oscillate, like really try to allow your weight to sink into the roller and then just very slowly oscillate over the position. Now, when you're doing it on your quads, if you're doing this right, it should fucking suck. Like, it's nothing fun about it. It sucks. But you only got to do it for 30 seconds or so. But it's going to help relax that area, help relax some of that fascia, which puts you in a much safer state to train in. So for whatever that's worth, when you're foam rolling, don't just mindlessly roll over the area. Make sure that you guys are, you have some intention behind what you're doing. Okay. So, I think that is all that I got for you guys today. I hope that this really helps, guys. Use that 7-3-2-1-1 system just to kind of help you check those boxes every day to make sure that you're training these different aspects of your health and fitness. Because listen, just lifting weights is not enough. You need to move more. When you look at overall health, cardio plays such a major role in cardiovascular health. Now, strength training, when you look at the studies, right, when you look at what they find in longevity research, muscle mass and strength training plays a huge role in longevity. Then on the flip side, cardio alone plays a huge role in health and longevity. Why are we not combining the fucking two? All right? You meatheads out there, cardio is not going to fucking ruin your gains. It's not going to make you lose 100 pounds and you'll be emaciated, overnight. That's not how this works, right? And for you guys that are just obsessed with cardio, you got to understand the value of strength training too. Like, as you get older, you're going to lose power. You're going to lose strength. You're going to lose bone density. Your posture could go to shit. So building muscle, building stability and mobility in the joints, building bone density, these are things that just make you harder to kill. Now, when you combine those things, now you're a dangerous fucking person. You're healthy, you're fit, you're lean, you're strong, you're mobile, but you could also go for extended periods of time. You don't just fucking you don't do one rep in life and it's over, right? You want to continuously be able to move and play with your kids and, play a pickup game of basketball or soccer or your jiu-jitsu or whatever it is that you like to do. You want to be able to do it, and you want to be able to do it for a long period of time. You want to age gracefully. So combine these things. Do things that you enjoy. Since I moved down to Red Bank, one thing that I've been doing more of is paddle boarding. And I'll use that as like my restoration or maybe like a cardio session sometimes if I could really get moving. It's hard for me to get my heart rate up high enough on paddle boarding. That's the problem. But anyway, I get out on the water on a beautiful sunny morning or afternoon, and it's like a meditation for me, right? I could relax. I try to get a little cardio in, try to get my heart rate up. So find something that you enjoy and do it. Have fun with it. Don't think that training always has to be like grueling and super hard. You have to be drenched in sweat with everything that you do. There's a time and a place for that, of course, but if that's all your training is, you're going to beat the fuck out of yourself, man. So you got to make sure that you're doing this the right way, where you have your hard days, but you also have your restorative days, and you're training these different aspects of fitness, where you're checking the box of power and strength and building muscle and cardiovascular work and mobility and all these other things, because that's what keeps you in this game for the long haul, which is what we all want, right? We all want to age well. We want to age gracefully and be here as long as we can. So that's what I got for you guys today. I love and appreciate you guys. Before you go, do me a quick favor, guys. Please understand that the best way for us to grow the show and to reach more people is by you sharing the show and leaving reviews. So whatever you have time for, do you have a second to share this to your stories right now on Instagram? That would mean the world. You could tag me in it. I'll reshare it. Do you have a second to leave a quick 5-star review on iTunes? That would mean the world. If you have an extra second, you could drop a line, drop a quick sentence, or whatever you want to write as far as a written review. That'll really mean the world. And what I could do for that is I'll even send you our new TTS gear. We got TTS versus everybody shirts coming out. So we'll send you over some merch if you guys leave a written review, and I'll read it on next week's show. So anyway, if you have a quick second to do that, it would mean the world. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. I love and appreciate you guys, and I will catch you next week on another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. Peace!